Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. This is Jordan with Books with Brushu. Today I'm going to be talking about 10 series that I absolutely love that I haven't heard YouTube talk about, or BookTube or Book talk about. Most of these series are a little bit older. I read them back in grad school, after grad school time, and I really enjoyed them. Actually, most of these recommendations came from my good friend Carolyn. We met at grad school, so she loves to read and she obviously gives really good book recommendations. So today that's what I'll be talking about. I've got 10 series. They're all romance series. So I've, in the last I don't know, 12, 13 years that I've been out of grad school, have broadened my reading genres. So I don't read solely romance anymore like I used to. So let's jump right in. The first book we're going to talk about is Thoughtless by S.E. Stevens. And this book, it's a trilogy, the original trilogy, and then there are, I think, 3 or 4 books after the original trilogy in other people's points of view, and I think I've only read 1 or 2 of those, but the main trilogy I absolutely love. So this book starts out with Kira and her boyfriend Denny. They are moving to a new city to move in with one of Denny's good friends, Kellen. And Denny has this great job opportunity, and Kira is going to go to school there. She's going to go to college. So moving to a new place, first time living together as boyfriend, girlfriend, great opportunities for their lives, for growing. And they move in with Denny's good friend, Kellen Kyle, who is a local rock star. He's a local musician, singer in a band. So this book follows not only Kira and Denny's life and their relationship, but it also follows Kellen. So in a little bit of a turn of event, Denny has to leave to pursue an opportunity for him in his life, and he's gone for a pretty significant amount of time. So this leaves Kira alone in this house with Kellen, and she doesn't know him very well, and they become friends. So they hang out all the time. They develop kind of this ritual together, right? So she comes home from school, she studies, she's doing her homework, and Kellen's hanging out with her. She goes to the bar to see him and his band play, and their relationship kind of builds from there. So this series is absolutely amazing. Their relationship is addicting, and the slow burn and just the angst, and are they going to be in a relationship? Are they not? What's going to happen with Denny? How is this going to progress? It's so good and it's so addicting. Now, it is kind of a chunky book for a romance. This first book is about 530-ish pages, but it's so good. Oh my gosh, this series is addicting, and you just want to read it and go through it so fast. So that is the first the first series that I recommend, is by S.E. Stevens. And now the second series that I love, which is a longer series. It has lots of books in it. I'm actually almost finished reading the whole series. It's the Falling Crest series by Tejan. So this series starts out with Samantha, and she's living at home with her parents, and she has to start going to a new school. She has a lot of problems with her mother, and her parents get divorced, and her mom ends up getting together with this other guy, and Samantha moves into his mansion with his two boys, Mason and Logan. So at first, Mason and Logan don't like her. They're all in high school, and Mason and Logan kind of rule the school. They play football, they're very popular, so they rule the school. And here comes in Samantha, who is from a poor family. She was going to the public school before, now she's going to the private high school with the boys, and they don't like her, so they're kind of bullying her. But things, kind of develop as they're living together, and relationships progress from there. So that's just the first book. There are like 6 or 7 other books in this main Fallen Crest series, plus a couple of novellas, and they're all really good. It just follows their relationship and then progressing from high school to college, and then after college, and their lives together, and dating and having kids and all of that. And a lot of the books in this series also have spin-offs of the different characters that you meet along the way. So a lot of like their best friend, the boy's best friend, Nate, he has a spin-off book. And then his sister Aspen has a spin-off book. Logan has a book about meeting his girlfriend. And then there's a whole spin-off series called Crew, which deals with one of the towns next to Fallen Crest, which is Russo, and their crew system, and some of the people that they know that are in a crew. And there's another spin-off book on Samantha's best friend and her life and her relationship and the bar that she owns. And they're just really, really amazing books. So there are a significant number of books in this entire world, the Fallen Crest world or universe. And I have read almost all of them. So I actually just read one this month in my TBR about the motorcycle club that's kind of associated with Russo. And so I've just finished that book, and I really enjoyed it. It's very minimally related to Fallen Crest, but you are introduced to some characters that you do meet in the Fallen Crest series. So I really would recommend reading all of these in order. And Tijan does have a reading order on her website, and she lets you know in parentheses, like if you actually need to read this in part of the series, but they're really honestly all interconnected, and you get little tidbits, little Easter eggs if you do read them in order. So that is really the way that I would suggest to read it. So the only 2 books that I have left in this series are a spin-off about the rival football team that you meet in these books. There's 2 brothers on the other football team. They're kind of rivals, and they go back and they play pranks on each other, and like really, really bad pranks. So that's a spin-off book on one of the brothers. And then the very last book is Mason's point of view. So those are the only 2 that I have left to read in the entire universe. So that's just such an amazing series that I've loved for the last 12 or 13 years since I started reading it. So that's another really good one. So the next book series that I'm going to talk about is called The Storm by Samantha Towle. So the first book in this series is called The Mighty Storm. So in this first book, you are introduced to True and Jake. Now, True and Jake grew up in England together. And at age 14, Jake moves from England to America. So they were best friends, and he leaves her behind, moves to a different country. So years and years later, Jake is a rock star. And he is part of a band called The Mighty Storm. Well, True has a music column in a magazine or something like that. So she is sent to interview Jake for this column. And of course, they haven't seen each other in a really long time. So she's sent to interview him. They get reacquainted, and there's obviously a very intense attraction between the two of them. And so after this interview, Jake makes an offer to True to follow him and his band around on their tour, on their next tour. So she's going to be writing basically an exclusive piece on the band. There's just one problem. True does have a boyfriend, and she's been with her boyfriend for a couple of years. So she's torn between leaving her boyfriend behind or going on, you know, the experience of a lifetime, the opportunity of a lifetime to write an exclusive piece about Jake and his band. So obviously there wouldn't be a book if she didn't go on the tour with them. So then she goes on the tour with them, you know, backstage, riding in the buses with them, touring around with them. And then True and Jake's relationship progresses from there. So again, a lot of angst, a lot of anticipation, you know, we're attracted to each other, but does True actually want to try to be in a relationship with this womanizing rock star or not? And, you know, just trying to navigate that and navigating her relationship with her boyfriend and all of those things. So again, this series is amazing. It's so good. There are 5 books in the series, and the other, at least the last one, is about one of the group's children, and all of that. So it's a really good series. 5 books, super easy reads. I really enjoy this series as well. I also really recommend the series Crossfire by Sylvia Day. And the first book in the series is Bared to You. So in this book, we meet Gideon Cross and Eva. So Eva has moved to New York, and she meets Gideon Cross. Now this series, so the series has 5 books. And actually, Sylvia Day just announced a new book in this series. Well, a new book in a different series, but it follows Gideon's sister, who we meet in this series. So I would recommend reading the Crossfire series before you go into that series. So in Bared to You, we meet Gideon Cross and Eva, and this is kind of a 50 Shades-esque series. So you have a very dominant male main character and a slightly submissive female main character. You know, just the attraction that they have, and Eva is just totally enraptured with Gideon and, you know, just feels this magnetic pull towards him and just can't get enough of him. Now, there are a lot of explicit sex scenes in this book. So if you don't enjoy open door, very descriptive, like, this series will not be for you. You know, just reading about their lives and, you know, the issues that they have, and, you know, Gideon becomes way too overbearing, and, you know, he's just trying to control me, and, you know, all of that, but she eventually forgives him and they work it out. So I really enjoy this series. I enjoy those kind of books. There's actually another series in this video that will be similar to this one, but, you know, 50 Shades-esque, but I enjoyed the writing of this series better than 50 Shades. So I sort of kind of didn't get the hype on 50 Shades. I enjoyed the books, but I didn't love them. I really didn't love the writing. I honestly liked the movies better than the books. But in this instance, I really loved these books, and how the story progressed, and, you know, the issues and the problems that they have in the next books. It's not like a series where they don't need sequels, or sequels aren't necessary. That's not this series at all. There's definitely progression, and I just binged these books. I absolutely love them. They're so good. Another series that I really loved is called the This Man series, by Jodi Ellen Malpass. So this is similar to the Gideon Cross series in that it's a woman and a man, and they meet, and he's very controlling of her. So in this series, we have Jesse Ward and Ava. So Jesse owns this place called the Manor, and it's basically a high-end brothel where men and women can go and have kinky sex. So there's a lot of kinks in this book, a lot of open door scenes. So if you don't enjoy that stuff, you will not enjoy this series. Jesse hires Ava to come to the manor to redecorate it. So she's an interior designer. So she comes to redecorate, I don't remember, some of the rooms or something like that. So she doesn't know what kind of place it is when she arrives. So she obviously is kind of shocked when she finds out what this place is. So she is very against being with Jesse. He is obviously very attracted to her from the get-go and very insistent on being with her. And she's off-put by this because of the manor and the place that it is. By Jesse's assistant, I don't know if she's the manager of the manor, but she works there. And Ava does not like her because of her and Gideon's past. I mean, her and Jesse's past. This follows Jesse and Ava, and Jesse chasing after Ava, their start of their relationship, and then they have a lot of issues and arguments and like breakups because of how overbearing and controlling Jesse is, to the point where he is like stealing her birth control so that she runs out and isn't taking it. But you know, she's so caught up in how much she loves him and doesn't realize, like, oh, I just went to the pharmacy last week and picked up 3 packs, and now I just don't remember where I put them, and but I don't have any, and I don't have time to go back to the pharmacy and get more, and just kind of like absent-minded about things like that, because she's just so caught up in him and their relationship, and so enraptured with him. And I'm like, girl, let's remember to take a birth control, okay? So, they have a lot of fights and a lot of arguments because of how controlling and overbearing he is. But ultimately, they get it worked out. So, very along the lines of 50 Shades of Grey, the Crossfire series that I just talked about, and then this series have a little bit of overlap in their overall storyline and the characteristics of the main characters. This series has 3 books from Ava's point of view, maybe 4, and then 3 books from, there's 3 books from Ava's point of view, 1 book about their lives further down the line as they're older and they have children, and that's kind of a dual point of view, and then 3 books from Jesse's point of view. So I've read the first 4 books. I have not read the last 3 that are all from Jesse's point of view. So basically it's the first 3 books just in his point of view. So I really, really enjoyed the first 3 books. Super good. The 4th book was just kind of okay. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. So definitely the first 3 books are super, super good in this series. So let's take it in a little bit of a different direction and talk about this YA series that I love. It's The Keaton Chronicles by Gillian Dodd, and the first book in the series is called Stalk Me. Now there are 6 books in the series, a novella, and a couple of other books after the main series, and a couple of spin-offs in this world. In this book, we meet Keaton, and she's in high school, and her parents are actors. So she's pretty well off. They have a lot of money. She has multiple younger siblings, and she is in high school. So this is kind of her life in high school. And there is this person stalking her and trying to kidnap her. So, you know, she's young, she's rather foolish. She sort of takes it seriously, but not really. And it leads into a climax at her birthday party, and some things happen there. And that leads her to having to basically go into witness protection, change her name, and go to a different school. So she ends up having to move from California to the East Coast and go to this private boarding school called Eastbrook Academy. So she comes in as the new girl and, you know, trying to make friends and integrate herself in this new school, while also not being able to talk to her family, not being able to see her family. Like, all of the events at the school that the other families come to, hers can't. You know, she can't have any interaction with them. You know, she's also trying to protect her younger siblings because she doesn't want anything bad to happen to them. So this series follows Keaton in her life, starting off with her in California and then her life at Eastbrook and going through all of that. And, you know, her relationships, and it's kind of Gossip Girl-esque, but at, you know, a boarding school. I really enjoyed this series. I loved all the books, even though they're YA. There are a lot of relationships back and forth, and, you know, this friend group and that friend group and rivals and stuff like that. There's also sports involved. So I really, really enjoy this series and would definitely recommend it to a lot of people. And I even enjoyed the different spin-off series. They're actually right here behind me that follow them later on in their lives. So, Keaton Chronicles by Gillian Dodd. Another series that I recommend is the Pucked series by Helena Hunting. So this is a hockey romance series. And in the first book, in this first book, we meet Violet, whose stepbrother is in the NHL. And through this connection with her stepbrother, she meets Alex Waters. They meet, and this is kind of, you know, their budding relationship, and he's in the NHL, and so is her stepbrother. So, you know, kind of navigating that whole thing. She doesn't love her stepbrother. They kind of banter and go back and forth. But these books are about, well, this first book is about their relationship and how that forms. Definitely a lot of sex scenes. So if you don't like spicy open door books, this series is also not for you. However, the Puck series is one of my ultimate favorite series. I absolutely love all of these. So each book follows a different member of this hockey team and their relationship, and all the issues they have going on in their individual lives, but they're all on this hockey team. So the first book is about Violet and Alex, and let me tell you, Violet is freaking hilarious. She is so funny. Some of the things that she does are just so outlandish, but they fit her personality perfectly. So definitely a great hockey romance series if you like hockey romances. We've got another rock star romance series, which is called, the series is called Rockstar by Anne Mercer, but the first book is Falling Down. So we've got two bands. We've got Falling Down, which is Jesse Kingston's band. And then we have Lucy's band, which is just her and Serafina. And they end up touring together. This is about Lucy and Serafina. They're not really loving their lives and they really enjoy singing, so they get back into singing and form this band, and everybody loves them, and so they end up touring and opening for Falling Down, which is a really popular rock star band. So the first couple books in this series follow Lucy and Jesse and their lives together, and touring and then falling in love, and having kids and all that. And then the other books in this series follow the different band members. And there is a whole lot of drama that goes on because Lucy and Serafina's parents were well, their whole family is in the mafia, and some of them were killed by a rival mafia. And so Lucy and Serafina aren't necessarily safe. And there are constantly people out to get them from this rival mafia group. So there's also that underlying plot throughout the whole series. Then, you know, Serafina, she is kind of psychic. So is their grandmother. You know, they kind of all have this, you know, like the eye, they can see things, they can kind of predict things. So there's also that element that kind of passes down through the generations, and makes its way into the story. But the band members of Falling Down are great. You have different personalities for each of them. Xander, who is the drummer, he is hilarious, so funny, the banter back and forth, just his jokes, and them and their significant others and the relationships that develop throughout the series, they all, you know, form this big family, and they all live in this giant mansion together. And I just really love like the found family and also the real family, because Lucy and Serafina's family is still around, and their grandparents, you know, are in the story, and the mafia part plays a big part in this story too. So you have the rock star element of them on tour and them singing, but then also the other. So it's not just solely about like playing on tour and that kind of stuff. But there are books for almost every band member and their relationship and how their lives have been, where some of them go back into the past, so you kind of learn why and how the characters are now, like why they are that way, and then, you know, some in the future, or in the present time, and just all of them are interconnected. So you meet, or you have the story about that one band member, but also it furthers the story along on their lives together. So you definitely have to read these in order. There are a couple books that left to be published in this series, so it's not a completed series, but there are a significant number of books in this series. I think we're up to like 10 or 11, and there are a bunch of novellas interspersed in there. So Xander, he usually has a Christmas novella that comes out, you know, just their Christmas time, cute, bantery, back and forth. That's another good Rockstar series. So 2 more series to talk about. This next one is the Marked Men series by Jay Crownover. And the first book in that series is Rule, R-U-L-E. So this book is about Rule Archer and Shaw Landon. So Shaw is a pre-med student. She follows the rules. She's a good girl. You know, does what people expect out of her in her life, right? She's pre-med, wants to be a doctor. She's on the straight and narrow path. Rule, on the other hand, lots of tattoos, lots of piercings. He's a tattoo artist. He doesn't listen to rules. He makes his own rules. Very opposite. However, Shaw is Rule's dead twin's girl. So Shaw used to date Rule's twin, who is now dead. So they have that history. So now they're trying to navigate this budding attraction that they have to each other. So not only was Shaw with his dead twin, but they are very much opposites. She's the good girl, he's the bad boy. But they end up making it work. And this is, you know, the ups and downs in relationships, and trying to navigate their different situations, and also the underlying of, you know, you are my dead twin's girl, you know. So this series follows each man in the Marked tattoo shop. So it's called Marked. They have their own tattoo shop. So this follows you know, the tattoo artists that are in the shop, and also, you know, the other people associated with them. So each book is about a different character. And so there's, you know, different issues or problems or background stories or traumas that develop in each book. But there's also the underlying story of like the progression of the different relationships throughout the other books. So they are interconnected, and they talk about their different friends and, you know, acquaintances in the other. I devoured this series. It's so good. Jay Crownover has a couple of spin-off series based off of this series, and I've read a few of them, but definitely The Marked Men is my favorite out of all of them. So Rule, first book in the series, absolutely love it. So the last series that we're going to talk about is the Runaway Train series by Katie Ashley. And the first book in this series is Music of the Heart. So in this book, we follow Abby and Jake Slater. So Abby is basically going on a trial tour with her brother's band. They're a country band, and she is going to possibly be the fourth member of this band. So she's gonna go on tour with them for a little while and see how that goes. So she is absolutely exhausted, and she stumbles into a tour bus and goes back into the back bed and passes out. Well, it turns out she gets on the wrong tour bus. She accidentally got onto the tour bus of Runaway Train, which is Jake's rock and roll band. He comes into their bus thinking that she's a groupie there to have sex with him. So he obviously, you know, starts touching on her and kissing on her, and she's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, she's confused. She didn't realize she was on the wrong tour bus, and she knees him in the balls. She's like, get off me. Like, what are you doing? So they end up talking, arguing, figuring out that she's on the wrong tour bus. So he's the bad boy rock star. She's the good girl country singer. And he shouldn't be attracted to her, but he is. So he makes a bet with her that she can't last 1 week on the Runaway Train tour bus. And of course, she can't turn this bet down. She can't back down. She has to prove him wrong. This guy that she just met, how dare he? She makes this bet and goes on tour with them. And of course, their relationship goes on from there. So, you know, kind of a typical rock star romance, dealing with groupies and going on tour and all of that. And as their week of this bet comes to a close, you know, how they are trying to navigate that, because now they don't want to be away from each other. So that part, that whole bet part where she lives with him, kind of reminds me of Beautiful Disaster by Jamie McGuire. How they make the bet and she lives with him for a month. And then they kind of have the relationship form. So this is very similar to that. And there are 4 books in this series that follow the other band members and kind of their whole lives together and how that progresses. But this is another really good rockstar romance, super quick reads, 4 books in this series. So I really, really recommend that one too. So that concludes all of the 10 books or the 10 series that I really love that aren't talked about very much. I've maybe heard 1 or 2 people on Book Talk, BookTube, Bookstagram talk about the Pucked series by Helena Hunting, but otherwise I haven't heard any of these series spoken about. A lot of them are indie published series. Fallen Crest, The Keaton Chronicles, most of them are indie published. Since they aren't traditionally published, they're not on all of the platforms. Some of them are in Barnes & Noble or other booksellers, but they are all on Amazon, and a lot of them are on Kindle Unlimited. You can get all the ebooks. So every single series that I talked about here, I do have on ebook, so they are at least available that way. I love these series, so let me know down below if you've read any of these series, if you've liked them, if you haven't liked them, or which series you're really intrigued to read that you have never heard about. I will see you in the next one. Bye.